Hi guys, and welcome to Norwegian Modeling Bench. This is Kenneth, and today I have an installment about the F-35B Lightning II. So I'm currently building the USS Essex, the LHD-2, and on that ship you will have a couple of F-35s, and I have gotten the Pontos ones here and also the 3D Wild that I'm comparing. So I will show all the build steps and then do a comparison at the end. So I hope you enjoy. Like and subscribe and comment if you like. I'm starting out with the Pontos one, and as you can see, the instructions are quite comprehensive. You have approximately 46 to 50 parts that you need to put together, both plastic parts and photo etch. Of course, there are a lot of details that you will be adding. So when looking and comparing with the 3D Wild ones, you will see that it is lacking a bit of these details. There are also like 30 decals or decals that you will be adding later on. So all in all, it's like 70 to 80 parts and decals that you need to put together. So it also requires quite a lot of time to build this. These plastic parts are more or less very well made, molded, a few mold lines and so on that needs to be removed, but not a lot of effort doing that. Also, the sequence here is quite important, so you don't knock off wheel legs and so on. And I did this in steps, so making sure that the liquid cement was fully cured before moving on to the next part. For example, here adding the wheel legs, letting them cure before moving on, adding the tires and so on as well. So in that regard, it takes quite a while. And here I'm also adding some of the PE parts. You don't necessarily need to add them all. So as you can see here, you have PE parts going on the underside, which will probably not be that visible, but still. And you have also these caps for the wheels that are very, very tiny. So a bit of patience and a really good tweezer is definitely important, and a lot of patience. This tweezer is from Anis, which I definitely can recommend. They are very pointy, and for those small PE parts, they're just perfect. So take a look at that site. Yes, adding more of the PE here. You have different parts on the other side and so on that will need installation. And of course, some of these parts I think you should add anyway. I'm also making two versions with the fan open. So when the airplane is taking off vertically, these are open. And of course, on a small carrier like the LHD-2, they take off and land vertically. You don't have the steam catapult or so on that you will find on bigger aircraft carriers. So they need to take the use of that capability to be able to take off and land on the ship. So I'm making, as I said, two of those before starting with the paint job. I'm using Mr. Surfacer 1500 white to prime all the planes, and then I'm using AK half glass color for the planes themselves. And then there is quite a lot of paint brush work that needs to be done. I'm painting the white on the inside, the tires of course in rubber black. Also painted the wheel legs in both a metallic color and a light gray color. So quite a lot of paint work that needs to be done. But the wheel caps, they are really nice on the Pontos one. So actually painting the tires, that is quite an easy job, I would say. So letting that cure and then starting to add the decals. So of course I've added some gloss varnish before starting this work. I'm also using VMS Set and Fix. And also the softener, so it adheres well to the curves and the plastic, so it kind of melts in to the model. So that is definitely a product I can recommend. But you might notice here that these decals, at least on the upper side, and a lot of them, they're a bit too bright, and I contacted actually Pontos to ask if this was intended, and it was. It actually wanted to have it even brighter, which doesn't really match. So here you can see the comparison between the 3D wall decals and the Pontos one, and it is far too bright in my opinion. So I stopped at this stage and added a filter on top of these decals. You have some decals that needs to be white and some that needs to be a darker gray at least. So I toned down the decals with a bit of 5% half glass, or actually gunship gray, and rest of thinner, and then gave it a bit of a filter to tone down that bright color before adding the decals that should be brighter. So that was an extra step that was not required for the 3D wild ones. There the decals are actually quite perfect in the sense of color, but you have a lot of nice decals on the Pontos ones. So then I'm starting out with the 3D wild. So here you need to remove them from the supports, the resin supports. So I'm using a sonic saber, so an ultrasonic knife to loosen the planes from the supports. Otherwise you could use a hot knife, of course, which I've also shown in one of my tips and tricks installment or videos. And there is a bit of cleanup that needs to be done, of course removing all the remains of the supports. So I'm just using a light grit sanding block to remove those. And you have just a couple of parts that needs to be added. So here you have the exhaust or nozzle that needs to be added. You have two of the doors on the upper side that needs to be added, and then you have some nice, you have a pilot actually that you can put inside the cockpit, which is a nice touch, I would say. It's very, very small, but still, when painting it up, you can see in the pilot inside. So that's I would say something extra than from the Pontos one, where the inside is completely blank. Of course, you could add things inside as well, but the Canopy doesn't really allow for that much. So then the same thing with the 3D wall one, using then Mr. Surfacer 1500 white as a primer, which gives a good basis for the next steps. Of course, you have areas that should be white, so that gives an extra thing when using white. And then I'm also using the AK half glass for this one. It is a bit of a metallic paint, so I was a bit surprised that the granularity was a bit more coarse than regular acrylic paint. But still, so then I'm just painting up the insides of these panels, doors, white, and also giving the fan a lick of black, before also adding, of course, also adding colors on the tires, and painting the inside of the cockpit and the pilot itself. Of course, the exhaust, the jet exhaust, the nozzle there also needs a kind of a brownish color. So I used some earth brown and some gunmetal to give it at least some life. If it's 100%, I wouldn't say. And here I'm adding the decals. There are not that many decals on the 3D wild ones. They are really good in terms of color. They adhere really well with the softener from VMS, so they really melt into the model. So you can't really see any reminiscence of the decals afterwards. And luckily these were pre-cut. Some of the ones from 3D Wild, they're not pre-cut, so that is a bit tedious, but it was very good for these ones. And here you have them, as I said, in correct color as well. You have the gray ones on the top, and then the white ones. So then we have the canopies, and as you can see, they're a bit well, they're not completely transparent. So I used the gauzy agent to brighten them up a bit, so they become a bit more transparent. Letting that dry before moving on with some orange, so a clear orange color. So I've seen, at least on the photos of the planes, that they're not completely transparent, these canopy glasses. So adding a bit color to them, that I thought was needed. So here you can see them with some clear orange color and the AK, a real color that I used. And then on the Pontos one, you have a little knob or a thing sticking down, which is probably well, from the instructions it looks like it should fit, but the molding does not have an opening for it. So you need to remove that. You also need to do some minor adjustments on the back side to be able to fit the canopy in. So I did that, and also secured the canopy with a bit of thin CA glue. Of course, if it was completely transparent, this would clog up and fog up. I'm sorry, the glass, but it isn't transparent, so that wasn't a big issue here. So here I'm adding the canopy for the 3D Wild one, and that was really nice. Also with just a curve, it was a bit brittle, but definitely manageable. So here we have my entire wing of F-35s. So you can see in the top left now, there we have the 3D Wild one, and the rest, they are Pontos ones. So, well, you can pick what you like, I would say. Depending on, of course, I think, well, when toning down the decals, they became quite good, the Pontos ones. But the build complexity and time, like 4 to 6 hours on one plane, a bit too much. The decals, I would say, is better on the 3D Wild ones in terms of color, but I like the crisp decals from Pontos or Cartograph. That's who made it. Detail wise, I would say that the Pontos ones are definitely far more detailed than the 3D Wild ones. The 3D Wild one, even though the cockpit and the pilot is present. So I think you should pick what you like, and well, if build time is of essence, then 3D Wild is your option. If accuracy is what you are looking for, then the Pontos one should be your option. So I hope that was insightful. Until next time, stay safe.